Hey guys, Joe East again here. Alright, let's get back into some of this really interesting stuff that most people don't know about. And if you told them, they wouldn't believe you. Because most people are brainwashed and have not been through a program to relieve them of their brainwashing. So tonight we're going to talk about mind control procedures. It'll be extremely disturbing to most people. I was not joking. I put a warning at the beginning of this video. It is not a fucking joke, guys. This will be disturbing. No kids, no emotionally vulnerable people watching this shit, because this will fuck you up, and it'll fuck up normal people, because I'm going to tell you some really crazy shit. Okay? You were warned. Don't complain if you don't take my warning, for those of you who are vulnerable, or if you have people around you who can't handle this shit. Okay, mind control procedures. Let me get my little script out here, my whiteboard, so we can make sure we hit everything. All right, these techniques are used every freaking day. Every day you run into mind control techniques. That's why in a previous video I told you guys who consume news from the major networks, you're a Corona monkey. And I'm not fucking joking, because you're a monkey, your mind's under control of these guys, because the techniques are very subliminal. We'll get into all the techniques very deep into these techniques. Show you exactly what they're doing in a simplified fashion, so non-experts can understand. And we're going to deep dive into all the simplification model, and we're going to deep dive into the pieces of it, right? So you guys know where we're coming from. It's used in advertising. First thing up here, you guys probably know, sometimes you buy shit, you're like, what the fuck did I buy that for the day after, right? After you're outside of the spell, or more specifically, out of the hypnotic trance of the advertisement. We've all been victims of stupid purchases by hypnotic advertising. Whether it's our fault or not, some of this stuff being subliminal, I'm going to say it's not probably your fault, because these are sneaky techniques sometimes. When you buy stuff you don't really need, and the next day you got like remorse, buyer's remorse, then you've been manipulated very subtly. And so I would say it's probably not your ethical fault. Of course, it's your responsibility to fix it, but it's not your ethical fault. Major news media, we covered this a little bit in the previous video on the Korono hoax. Major news media is fucking bullshit, and it's all mind control nowadays, because they're going to try to push the two main buttons that they can push: fear and sex, at all times. You turn on any of the major networks, fear, sex. That's it. And I mean, come on, guys. Sometimes that's legitimate, okay, but fucking all the time, that's not legitimate, okay? That's just fucking mind control bullshit, and I'll show you what it is. Corporations, if you work for a major corporation, you have gone through mind control procedure. When you go through onboarding of a major corporation and the indoctrination of a major corporation, read the book called Built to Last. Go Google this, Built to Last. There's a chapter in there called Cult-like Mentality. Read that. All the major successful corporations in the United States, the top 10 in that fucking book, says The main characteristic of the great corporations is a cult-like mentality. I'm not fucking around here, guys. This is fucking true. Go look at the book Built to Last, a major, heavily researched bestseller about 10 or 20 years ago. Go read it. It's a major book on American corporations. It says cult-like mentality, and I am not fucking joking. So I'm not even joking when I say this shit, okay? Sometimes we use exaggeration to get a point across. I'm giving you fucking data. Cults. We all know cults is mind control, right? Because that's the core thing with cults. Just to give you a little bit of a taste of what a cult is, in hypnosis research, it's well known that 20% of the population can be taken completely down in hypnosis and completely under control of the hypnotist to where any suggestion can be implanted in their fucking brain. 20% of the goddamn population. I'm not joking. This is research. So that's where many of your cult members come from. That 20% are targets of the cult recruiters. Okay? No fucking joke, guys. This is fucking serious. I'm giving you some really hardcore shit here, and if you can't handle it, you need to get yourself out of naivete. Those of you who really know a lot about mind control will have heard of the MK Ultra program in the CIA. It was exposed in the late 1970s by the Church Committee, the Congressional Inquiry, and they destroyed a lot of documents, but a lot of them actually got probably accidentally not destroyed, and these guys in Congress got a hold of these papers, published them, and it's all out there. The MK Ultra program. Google this, do a search on it, DuckDuckGo, whatever. Get yourself educated on this stuff. If you're going to be an expert in mind control, or at least educated in mind control, you better fucking deep dive in MK Ultra very quick and figure out what the fuck is going on inside our goddamn governments, okay? These guys done tons of research with just the shit we know. Now think about the shit they destroyed and they burned when they knew the Church Committee was coming after them, all right? A lot of fucking crazy shit involved. Drugging victims, torturing victims, and abusing victims to figure out how far they can take the human brain so they can fucking control it, all right? They got these ideas from the Chinese communists during the Korean War, whenever American prisoners were taken prisoner by the Chinese and they were brainwashed and they came back to the USA and everybody was like, what the fuck's the matter with their goddamn brains? So a lot of the intelligence agencies in the US became interested in this research. However, the research was actually performed without the goddamn victims, prisoners, soldiers, all kind of shit. These experiments were performed on innocent people. A lot of times, like innocent soldiers, innocent civilians, in a bunch of fucking tests. Vietnam War experiments were not only conducted on the Vietnamese, they were also conducted on American soldiers. A lot of American soldiers have no fucking idea that they participated in some of this bullshit. Some of the perpetrators of this bullshit don't know what they were participating in. I got an assignment for you. They go out and do it. They come back. Okay, thank you, sir. It's all done. They don't know what the fuck just happened. You know, like guy following orders, right? The so-called classified bullshit, right? Yeah, where's classification in the Constitution? Nowhere, right? Okay. If you guys want to be even more disturbed by our secret intelligence, the DEA, and various out-of-control organizations in the United States and abroad, of course, but mostly in the United States, look up these two authors here. They've done a lot of good hardcore research on the out-of-control agencies within the United States. Amy Jacobson, she actually has several books on the CIA. Secret research into the paranormal. They spent tons of money in paranormal research. They spent tons of money in DARPA creating some of the most crazy designs of weird shit. Some of it makes sense. Some of it makes no fucking sense. And then Douglas Valentine is the most hard-hitting researcher on the CIA, and his book is so outrageous. I won't even say some of the stuff on YouTube because even guys who know how evil the MK Ultra is, whenever you find out what Doug found out, it's just unbelievable. Just read this shit. It's crazy. I mean, absolutely fucking crazy. So there's some weird shit out there. which is why I put the warning at the beginning of this YouTube video. I don't want innocents or vulnerable people to watch this shit, because this is some pretty fucking crazy shit. Remember, drugs, torture, abuse, and I'm just getting started here. So that's an introduction whiteboard. Next, we're going to show you the model. We're going to show you a very simplified model to where if you're not an expert on mind control, you can actually have something in your mind to navigate your way through this bullshit. So whenever the bullshit happens and you recognize it, you apply this model to it, and then you can figure out whether you are being manipulated with a mind control procedure. All right? So let's get into that next. And we're back. Now, if there's anything you learn from me, let's say you forget almost everything on my channel, and you want to take away one little thing you never fucking forget that I have taught you guys, and that will be extremely powerful in the way you navigate the world, it is this model right here. Now, this is the hypnosis model procedure. Now, this is ethical. Now, therapists and a lot of doctors know how to do this. If you recall, perhaps when you were a kid, or you go bring your kids to a doctor sometimes a doctor can give a kid a shot, and before he knows it, he don't even remember the shot. Or if you get a shot, sometimes you don't remember when it happened, right? Well, the doctor was using an ethical hypnotic procedure to hypnotize you, desensitize you to the pain. So ethical hypnosis is used to recover from addictions like cigarettes, drugs, phobias, sometimes extreme abuse. There's a lot of uses for hypnosis. 20% of the population can be taken completely down in hypnosis, all right? Roughly speaking. And that has a big effect on how it's used in unethical situations. Like I said, if you're a therapist, this is the ethical model, all right? Another book I have here, which is a lot of articles on hypnosis research. I think it was written in the 90s. It's called Hypnosis, the Cognitive Behavioral Perspective. It's like an anthology. I found this in a used bookstore, and I just picked it up. Pretty cool. Got some really interesting articles in there. Heavy research. It's more like written by scholars doing research. But anyway, there's a lot of resources out there on hypnosis. Some of it's practical, some of it's research, depending on which sector you want. Okay, so pre-talk. The client comes in your office. This is establishing comfort and rapport. Pre-talk. Hey, what's up, man? What's up with your day? Get them in a relaxed state. Get them in a comfortable state, and start building a natural rapport on the conversation. And then you get into the induction. All right. Induction is whenever you say, okay, we're ready to dive into taking your conscious mind out of control and start getting your subconscious mind prepared for what we're doing here, what your goals are. So you will have given the professional hypnotist your goals and your guidelines and what you want to do with hypnosis to your psychology or your subconscious, to reprogram yourself to get rid of something you want to get rid of, or help you to get over an obstacle that you can't get through with some sort of mental block. And maybe if you program your subconscious to bust through that block, you might be able to get beyond it, maybe. Okay? So induction is whenever you start bringing the client down into the hypnotic trance. So there's many techniques on the inductive technique. So induction, there are several techniques you can use for induction. The common ones are progressive muscle relaxation, where you guide your client through a process of relaxing the muscles, starting from a particular target, say the top of the head, and gradually working your way down all the way to the toes, or vice versa, from the toes all the way up to the top of the head. There's eye fixation, where you fixate the eye on an object or a dot or an image. And that's another way of taking the conscious mind and focusing it in in a particular way to where you can induce a trance in some people. Visual imagery for a lot of people. Those of you who have studied NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, you will know a lot about the visual imagery, because there's three main modalities. There's visual, auditory, and kinesthetic. Visual is probably a really easy and powerful one to use whenever inducing someone into a hypnotic trance. NLP, you can also use some other modalities like auditory listening stuff, or kinesthetics, like sticking your hand in a bucket of sand sort of way of, I can induct a lot of people by imagery of putting your hand to a bucket of sand, for example. Very easy to do. And then there's the awareness one for some people, where they become aware of sensations in their body, smells in their nose, sounds that they might have not been aware of because it's background noise, and the conscious mind is too focused to figure out to listen to the music, is another way to say it. The next step is the deepener. So once you get induced into the trance, you want to probably deepen it to kind of solidify it, make it strong, and kind of anchor it down there a bit. And that's going to be important for mind control when we get to the unethical mind control. But for hypnosis, the next step is a deepener. Some examples of a deepener is counting. So you have you might have watched a hypnotic session where people say 10, 9, 8, you're going down, 6, 5, or something like that. And it works well for some people. Again, some of these techniques work better than others depending on the particular person. Fractionation is a way of confusing the conscious mind where it suddenly relaxes and just lets the unconscious take over. So, for example, you can count in a weird way like 10, 9, 8, 2, 8, 1, 7.5. And that confusion, if you do it correctly, it confuses the conscious mind enough to where it releases control to the subconscious. If you do it right for certain people. Staircase, imagery walking down a staircase into a basement. It works for a lot of people. Imagery of an island. And as you bring the imagery, for some people again, of an island, they relax, the waves hitting the beach or the rocks or whatever, and that's a relaxing sort of thing where the conscious mind feels like, okay, I don't need to be focused on anything now. I can just let go of control. Subconscious mind becomes suggestible. Okay, so that's the deepener. So looking at the whiteboard here, remember, induction is the jump off the cliff into activating the subconscious mind and having the conscious mind release control. The deepener is to anchor it a bit tighter with a couple of more techniques to bring that hypnotic trance as deep as you can, appropriate for the session and for your client. The next stage is suggestion. This is where you implant the commands to the subconscious mind that the client already talked to you about in either pre-talk or in a session to figure out what their goals are, what they want out of the session, right? What they want to get over, what problems they want to solve with playing around in the subconscious mind here. All right. Some examples of suggestion is indirect. Indirect suggestion is, you might want to never do that again, versus direct, you shall never touch a cigarette again. See those differences, like giving a command versus gentle sort of massaging it into the unconscious versus command that unconscious mind, because it's so hard-headed. It's a different technique. So like I said, different people, different techniques. That's suggestion. So the suggestion is the command to the subconscious mind. It could be direct or indirect. Okay, for ethical hypnosis, you're taking the client down pretty deep into some subconscious stuff that could be pretty freaking dangerous. For some people, it's extremely dangerous. For 20% of the population, it is very dangerous. For some of the population who are not suggestible, i.e. probably me, I'm not very suggestible, it's probably very difficult to hypnotize me unless I like let somebody do it and I know what they're doing and I deliberately unfocus my conscious mind. But there's pretty much no way you can hypnotize me without me knowing it. But I'm a very rare, very small percentage of the population who knows the techniques, and I'm naturally not suggestible. So there are a proportion of the population, maybe 5% or so, maybe less, that are not suggestible at all. So this won't work on some people, okay? Or you might have to teach them how to relax that conscious mind and allow the subconscious to do its thing. You might have to train them to be hypnotized. All right, so after this extremely powerful technique of therapy is done, you have to wake up that client, all right? If you don't wake them up and they're still in a suggestible state, they walk out the office onto the street and somebody tells them they're a fucking idiot, then that suggestion of you're a fucking idiot is going to slip into their subconscious mind and maybe cause a lot of fucking crazy damage, right? So you got to wake them up to where they're not as suggestible as they were sitting in your office or in their living or wherever the hell you're doing the hypnotic session if you do hypnosis. So the awakening is reorienting the client to the present moment. Hey, guy, feel the chair underneath you. Okay, put your hands down there and feel the chair, feel the armrest. All right, feel the floor under your feet. Good. Take a deep breath. Feel that oxygen around you. You see these lights. Look at the lights. Look at the ceiling. Look at the walls. Get them reoriented. Get them grounded into the physical reality. Get them out of their mind and into the senses. Break the trance, as it were. And the process of awakening, let me get my little diagram out here. Depending on the client, you can actually count backwards. Like, okay, I'm going to count to 10, and once I get to 10, you'll be awake, and you'll be refreshed, and you're going to feel awesome, and you're going to be completely awake, and your trance will be going. Like 1, 2, 3, waking up, 4, 5, 6. Now you're getting ready to take on the world. 8, 9, 10, and we're awake. You know, for a lot of people, that works. Sometimes there's an eyelid air puff in the eyelids. You might go right in their eyelids to kind of blast them back to reality. Not blast them, but, you know, bring them back to reality in a very, very, you know, tactile way to where they feel something. Oh, kind of wakes them up, right? A wake up, physical wake up. So there's a few techniques. And those of you who want to get into hypnosis and figure out, hey, how the fuck does my brain work? Or how are all these people out here being manipulated by corporations, advertising, media, etc. You know, you want to figure this stuff out? Use the hypnosis model. Now, like I said, there's therapeutic reasons for hypnosis, but you can actually use this in an unethical fashion to fuck people up, fuck up society, hypnotize 80% of the population, cause social change using these techniques. Again, this is a dangerous video. This fucking shit is easy to do. It's so easy, it's scary. And I think Scott Adams said once, if people really knew how dangerous persuasion and some of this hypnotic techniques are, it would become illegal. It's that powerful. Like I said, if 20% of the population are completely suggestible, taken under in the trance, like they're completely have zero control of the suggestion once they're taken down into the trance, that's dangerous. Okay, guys? Like I said, this is some dangerous shit, and I warned you. It's going to be very disturbing. So if you can take 20% of the population all the way down, and that next percentage, 8, 7, 6, about 60% of the population can be taken down a certain percentage, well then almost everybody's suggestible, except a little slither of 5, maybe 1 to 5% of people who can't be hypnotized whatsoever. All right? Pretty fucking dangerous. So if you take this ethical model and take the ethics out of it, you can slam 80 to 90% of the population with social change, cultural change, fashion change, really dangerous shit. Okay? I don't even know if I should put this shit out here. I don't know if I'm going to delete this video eventually because it's so dangerous. But I'm giving you the shit because we're in a national so-called emergency, and this just has to be out there. This has to be out there for you educated people, you people who are not naive, to know this shit. And then we'll let the chips fall where they may. I might have to delete this because it could be very dangerous to have it out there. Maybe I can put it at a private link or something later on to where only approved people can see this. But this is fucking crazy shit. All right. Okay, so how does this all link up to the coronavirus bullshit we're all going through right now? And why am I giving all these warnings and all kind of shit? Okay. So let's modify this hypnotic model for unethical uses. Okay, I'm going to give you the skinny on the dangerous shit here. If you're a criminal and using this, I hope the cops catch you and shoot you or whatever legal system does. But anyway, we're getting to some pretty crazy shit here, so I warned you. Pre-talk. How can you take the pre-talk and use it in an unethical fashion? Okay. Let's do sex theme entertainment, drugs, both legal and illegal, medically prescribed, alcohol. And I use a funny term called rock and roll, but what I mean by that is entertainment, non-participatory sports. Now, those of you who like sports and you're a participant, you'll know it's a very healthy thing. So if you play on a team or you go out and cycling, weightlifting, running, maybe even football, soccer, whatever, if you're a participant or your kids are a participant, it's pretty healthy. But if you're just a spectator, you're being manipulated, right? Mass entertainment is manipulation, and that comes under pre-talk. We're trying to make you comfortable. We're trying to relax your conscious mind to where it's no longer focusing on critical problem solving. It's relaxed. It's ready to get entertained and accept hypnotic suggestion. All right? Got it? All right. Hollywood, entertainment to soften resistance to hypnotic suggestion. Sitcoms, get you laughing. So whenever you're laughing, it means you don't consider anything in your environment a threat. So if they got a laugh track going on a sitcom, that's a manipulation technique to manipulate your brain. Ah ha ha ha, there's no threat here. And then they'll slip a message of destruction of family values, destruction of religion, destruction, just destruction, any destruction. They'll start slipping that fucking shit in, mainly the destruction of the family. While the laughing track is on the sitcom, and your conscious and subconscious mind thinks, oh, I'm laughing, so there's no threat around here. We're having fun. Everything's cool, right? See where I'm going, guys? It's really scary stuff. Movies, show series. So some of this entertainment that you think is entertainment is actually hypnotic pre-talk. Shut down your conscious mind to prepare the unconscious mind for the suggestion to be slipped in by the movie itself on the cultural change bullshit and the advertisements on for you to go out and buy shit you don't need. Okay? Got it? Induction. How can we do induction unethically? Well, coronavirus is the biggest example. Induction, fear, is the most unethical induction possible. What happens when you're in a fear state? Your conscious mind shuts down. Your amygdala, the lizard brain, animal brain, reptilian part of the brain, kicks in. It's in fight, flight, or freeze mode. You probably heard of fight or flight, but it's actually fight, flight, or freeze. And when you're in a fight, flight, or freeze state, your amygdala, you're in a very suggestible state. For somebody who walks up to you as a friend who's ready to fight the fear or run away from the fear or freeze in the fear with you, a friend. Got it? Very subtle technique of an induction is fear. Fear. fight, flight, freeze, and then the friend shows up. He's on your side. He's with you on fight, flight, or freeze. He's either scared with you, ready to help you out, and so whatever he says is very suggestible. Hey man, let's try this. Let's do that. Man, let's just murder all these people. Oh man, we need vaccines now, dude, we need vaccines. Or, man, you better stay in your house, man, because they're gonna get you. That's gonna get you if you don't stay in your house. Fight, flight, freeze. Suggestion from the so-called friend who's actually in the media pretending to be your friend, slipping in this suggestion after the induction. Got it? All right. Highly sexed scenes and images. Okay. If you're a healthy male or female, sex is typically stimulates your animal reptilian brain for reproduction and shuts down the conscious mind to some extent. And hell, how does most people sin and out of control and destroy their lives? It's usually sexual. Is probably the biggest stat on fucking your life up by doing dumb shit because your conscious mind was shut down. Okay, so it's easy to induce a sexual hypnotic trance using sexual imagery. Or in the female case, romantic comedies or soap operas. So guys, it's going to be more visual stimulation of the amygdala or the reptilian brain. For women, it's going to be more of the emotional situation in a soap opera type thing, or the drama creation of inside the storyline that's going to stimulate the females, right? You know what I'm talking about. Everybody knows exactly what the fuck I'm talking about. But if I point it out here, you're going to see it in a different fashion and say, whoa, what the fuck's going on here? That caused this in my brain? Yeah. And the question is why? So they can get to the suggestion, baby. So they can get to the suggestion, baby. See, they're blasting your brain with this shit, shocking you, throwing you off balance. Sex, drugs, and rock and roll to get you to the suggestion, guys. Always remember that. Humor. Like I said, if you're laughing, your subconscious mind thinks you're not under threat. So anybody who suggests something while you're laughing is probably going to take hold because your conscious mind is not on the defense. So the suggestion is more likely to be accepted by the subconscious, because if somebody's laughing with you, they're friends. They're not enemies, right? Got it? They're friends on subconscious level. And if they show up as a so-called friend as the media friend, then you see how it is? It's a poser. Okay. Deepener. Let's see where we're at here. Deepener. So induction and deepener. What they're going to do with media is they stack several inductions together to deepen it. So let's say in a hypnotic session in therapy, ethical type, you might use one induction technique and then another technique to deepen it. But if it's media, they're going to stack a bunch of shit here, like stack 5 deep to get a more spread within the audience because you're doing millions of people or thousands or whatever. So you're going to use a lot of stacking of inductive techniques to do the induction and the deepener kind of sort of together, or to blast it out to more different types of brains, more different types of subconsciousness out there. So a deepener is basically stacking several more elements to the original inductive technique to reinforce the trance. Okay. Suggestion. So what's some examples of suggestion? Okay. Once the population is sufficiently defenseless, i.e. the conscious mind is shut down and unfocused, the amygdala is in fight, flight, or freeze, or it's relaxed. There's many ways to get that suggestion in there where the subconscious mind is ready to receive the suggestion. Once the population is sufficiently defenseless, you slip in the suggestion. Now, what's one common theme of the suggestions that we're receiving from mass media, government, maybe advertising, right? Advertising, we kind of sort of know they're trying to seduce us or stick us into a trance, but with government and media, they pretend like they're giving us so-called facts, which they're not. Okay. So the suggestion always supports the elite agenda. This is the corporations and the billionaires controlling the world and the trillionaires now. It's always at the expense of the victims, always at your expense. So you're going to be paying the price, not the elites, not the corporations. Number 3, it makes the victims weaker. You have less money in your bank account, less control over your subconscious mind. You're more suggestible with sex, drugs, and rock and roll, i.e. breakup of the family. Destruction. They feed on your pain. They feed on destruction. The suggestion is always going to be under the radar, stealth programming of the victim's brain, i.e. stealth programming of your brain. Stealth, under the radar, getting inside your mind without you knowing. Because, remember, your conscious mind is shut down. Your amygdala is either relaxed and ready to accept suggestion, or it's in fight, flight, or freeze mode, ready for their friend to help them with a slipped-in suggestion. All right? Got it? Pretty crazy shit, huh? Okay, now, and the final step in ethical hypnosis is awakening. The last box here, all right, is awakening. Now, for unethical hypnosis, they probably don't need to awaken you, right? Reorient you. Oh, you're coming out of a trance. I'm going to count to 10, and then you're going to be out of your trance. No, those motherfuckers want you in the goddamn trance forever. So the awakening is not going to happen with the media, advertising, or corporations. The awakening won't happen. You have to be awakened by a trained hypnotist, or your brain one day suddenly awakens. Those of us who came out of cults, we awakened ourselves. And my job is to awaken not the masses, those who whose heart's in the right spot, and they can do good with force. And when I say force, I mean force of personality, force of power, whatever the hell their talents are. Someone who can awaken themselves to where they can discover their personal mission and accomplish their personal mission in life, because it was stolen from them by this process here, either advertising, media, cults, or whatever the hell. Their personal mission was stolen from them, and my job is whoever I can awake. If they're good folks, productive people that could make an impact in the world with wealth, knowledge, personality, charisma, whatever. That's who I'm after. Not everybody, not the masses. If I can help the masses, okay, but sometimes they might be a little bit dangerous if this process was followed and the awakening goes wrong. If the awakening goes wrong with the masses, bad shit can happen. So I'm trying to awake only worldly people, initiates, those who are grounded on earth type people. That's what I'm after, not the masses in general. Although I don't mind helping, but I don't want to do any dangerous bullshit by awakening somebody and fucking up a lot of shit. This could be dangerous to awaken someone who's not ready. They'll fuck up their heads. It might fuck up their families. It can get crazy. All right. So I told you this stuff is dangerous. So what are some, okay, so that's like stuff that's kind of common sense, right? So I explained something to you that you can identify with. That's common sense that you experience every day in hypnosis with advertising, media, and government propaganda. Okay? So all the stuff I mentioned so far, you have actually been exposed to by just living in this world of saturation of advertising, media, and government propaganda. Now, this next section we're going to go into is the dangerous shit, this disturbing stuff that will fuck you up even more. Okay? So this is awakening stuff I just told you, like brought it to your conscious. Whoa, I never thought of it like that. The next section is the hardcore bullshit as to explain some of the things you've seen in the media that people can't explain, but I can explain it because I know what the fuck's going on. The brain's mind control. Okay. All right, guys, let's deep dive into this and some of the dark side of human psychology, taking hypnosis model to a level of criminality, military use, whatever. Really crazy shit. Brace yourselves. If you're a victim of abuse, you might be triggered. Warning there. We're going to dive into this, and maybe you'll find something out that can help you out here if you're a victim of abuse, right? Okay. So how can we understand induction and the depth of trance and how these criminals and some military operations might use this? Now, I'm not saying all the military operations are criminal, but some of the stuff we're hearing is criminal. But perhaps if you're building a super soldier to help prevent psychological issues with a normal soldier, some of this stuff might be okay for some military use. Okay, but let's get into the bad shit. Okay, I think I mentioned to you guys earlier that about 20% of the population will be taken completely down in a hypnotic trance and given any suggestion whatsoever, and they'll take it. Boom. That's a very dangerous statistic. Let's say there's 300 million people in America. If 20% can be taken completely down, how many people is that? 60 million. It's about the population of Great Britain, population of France, approximately. It's a lot of people. Let's say 60 to 65% of the population can get to a good depth of suggestibility. They might not take the suggestibility on that first advertising gimmick or that first fear thing from the government propaganda, but on the second and third one, they'll be good. The first lockdown, second lockdown, third lockdown, slip that suggestion in and now they believe it. So those of us who are not taking the suggestion, we're about 10 to 15% of the population. There ain't many of us out there. 10 to 15%, it's impossible to hypnotize us. Us. Those of you who are watching this, you're probably in that 10 to 15% that can't be hypnotized. You are the ones I would like to awaken to the technique so you can help out the other 80 to 85% of the population. Again, we can't really wake them all up. We don't want to, but we want to make sure we understand the process. That way we can manage the damage if we're in a position of power to do so. So, how can you deepen the hypnotic trance in an unethical fashion? Shoot them up with drugs. This has been tested extensively in the CIA, MK Ultra, all these fucking programs tested extensively. Drugs, torture. You remember fear? Fear is like a blast, and suddenly after the bomb goes off, you're like shocked, and your conscious mind shut down. Your amygdala kicks in, fight, flight, or freeze. Torture. Okay. That is, the physical form, or perhaps a mental or physical form of inducing that fear and terror. Torture. Use your imagination. Beating the shit out of somebody with a baseball bat. Screaming at them to where they can't hear anything for a whole fucking hour. For 2 hours. Blasting extremely loud music with a loudspeaker into someone's house to where the walls rattle with the music and just rattling them for 2 hours. That's torture. Okay? Okay? What's another form of torture? Physical. Burning kids with cigarettes. Cigarette burns. I've seen it. Not, I haven't seen it. I've probably seen the effects of it. Put it that way. Anyway, I in my younger days, my folks owned a trailer park. I've heard it all. Trust me. Yeah, beating people up threat of violence, threat of breaking bones, bruises, black eyes to defenseless innocent people, or maybe not completely innocent, but torture. See that? Torture deepens the hypnotic trance. So after they're tortured, after you blast this music, after you beat the shit out of them with a baseball bat, you slip in the suggestion. Unconscious mind absorbs it. Toughener, or deepener, should I say. It makes it more solid. It anchors the hypnotic suggestion. Abuse. Sexual, physical, and mental. All right. Those of you who are triggered, be careful here. Sexually abused people are so anchored into the hypnotic trance that was induced by the abuse, the hypnotic trance that was induced by the abuse, that often they tend to relive the abusive situation in their sexual partners. They want to. Sometimes it's just not a phobia, compulsion to relive that abuse in their subsequent sexual encounters that may be with healthy people and non-abusive people. You'll see that a lot in the sexual abuse cases. Now, if you're, say, CIA, MK Ultra, you use maybe a combination of drugs, torture, and abuse, and that suggestion that comes in after all this bullshit is so deeply anchored in the psyche, they don't even know what the fuck just happened. They don't know that they're compelled and have a compulsion to do shit that they don't even know where it fucking came from. I got people I know that was rescued from abusive situations where their sexual compulsions are so fucking insane. And they did not know what was matter with themselves until they went to a therapist. And the therapist started to get the real story, and suddenly they remembered, oh, fuck. That incident is triggering me to do all this crazy shit. They were, raped and sodomized and whatever the fuck happened. Dark stuff, really criminal stuff that deserves the death penalty. Bad stuff that was done to them, and then whatever suggestion, deliberately or not afterward, it's deep into their subconscious mind. Deep into their subconscious mind. And they do so many self-destructive things that they don't know is coming from this fucking induction, deepener, suggestion from the abuse. Half the time they don't fucking even know. Probably the majority of the time, victims of abuse do not understand their present addictions, compulsions, sexual problems, sexual deviancies, or whatever, all come back to that abusive situation that's deeply implanted in their subconscious mind, and their conscious mind is usually not even in tune with what the fuck happened to them. Now, consider an evil program trying to program people to do certain things, know this technology, and they're wicked psychopaths. Let's grab 100 people. Let's say, what's the easiest target to get victims here, right? Let's say you were designing an evil program, you're a fucking psychopath. How would you do it? Well, you would go after very vulnerable people that's not connected to their family, maybe hates their family, and then you run them through this program, and who cares about them, right? Victims of abuse, but the family's broken, so child protection, children who have been taken away from their parents and placed in the foster homes. Let's say you were an evil experimenter. Well, you'll go grab some of these kids and maybe try some of this shit out, or recruit some of the foster parents to be part of the program. Dangerous shit. This is fucking evil, guys. Like I said, this is sociopathic stuff that requires the death penalty if you find out whoever fucking did this shit. as death penalty level stuff. So anyway, if you were an evil son of a bitch and you were going to experiment on humans, Nazi level shit, Hitler level shit, you would target the foster care system, recruit some fake parents, fuck people's minds up, do your little data collection, your experiment, or whatever the hell you're trying to do, and then suddenly they're victims for the rest of their lives by some shit that they don't understand because it happened when they were kids or vulnerable, or they just forgot what happened because it was so much of a terrifying experience. The brain shut it all out. The depersonalization syndrome. Most of the time, they're going to have serious addiction issues and sexual issues. Bad stuff, very bad stuff. So let's say you were designing assassins, super soldiers, and serial killers. All right, guys, you want some disturbing information? Go check out most of the serial killers you just remember by memory. Go look at their biographies and see how many have been institutionalized. Whoa! Then you'll understand what really goes on with serial killers. Because before the 20th century, before MK Ultra, there wasn't really such thing as serial killers before psychology came to be a big thing. And evil people will always take over a powerful tool and use it for evil shit. Serial killers, check them out. About 80 to 90% of them have been institutionalized. So there was some people actually performing experiments on these guys, these kids, when they were institutionalized, running them through an induction, a deepener, a suggestion, sent those motherfuckers out there. Let's say 20% of the population you'd be taken completely on it. Let's say among these serial killer trainees, they're in that 20%. So all you got to do is knock in some deepener with drugs, torture, and sexual abuse. Boom, you have a triggerable soldier, serial killer, or assassin. Now this has been proven. And you can actually watch a video, Google it, Darren Brown, Derren Brown, assassin. He actually did an experiment and called an audience with suggestibility and had a guy, he didn't give him a real gun, but he had him actually, quote unquote, assassinate a celebrity on camera in front of a crowd of several hundred people. But they all were in on it, but the guy who was hypnotized and given the trigger did not know that he was programmed to assassinate, and he fucking pulled the trigger and was going to kill. It was essentially a murder, but the rifle, I think, had blanks in it. So this has been demonstrated on YouTube already, where you can program an assassin just by suggestion. They didn't even need to do any drug, torture, abuse deepeners on these guys, on some of these guys. So just think that a small percentage of the population can't remember anything that happened under hypnosis, and he was one of those guys. So just think what you can do with super soldiers, super assassins, and super serial killers if you actually are a psychopathic researcher and you run these people through the inductions, the deepeners, and the suggestions. Well, then you have an army out there that you can trigger on code words to go out and fucking kill people. Because you can program people to trigger on code words, to trigger on sounds, to trigger on touch. So remember what I said, visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So a visual cue, an auditory cue, or a kinesthetic cue. Remember Pavlov's dogs, rings of bells, and a dog salivates? Same thing goes on here. You give a trigger, a bell, snap of the finger, a code word that they associate with the induction, deepener, and a suggestion, and then you send them out into the world, make a phone call to them, send the trigger word over the phone. Suddenly their brain triggers into the suggestion mode and they're on autopilot. And if they're extremely suggestible and they're that small percentage of people who don't even remember what the fuck they happened, they'd go out and assassinate and blow the shit out of people, kill people, do mayhem and murder. And once over with, they have no idea what the fuck happened. These weird news media reports you hear have something to do with this, because check their biographies for institutionalization. Okay. Stockholm syndrome. Do some research on this. Figure out what Stockholm syndrome. That was like I think it was a bank robbery or something that became a psychological report, whereby the victims of the robbery took the side of the perpetrator, the guy with the gun that robbed the bank, and joined his side against the police and their own families in the situation. Everybody was wondering what the hell is going on, so they call it Stockholm syndrome, where a victim of a wicked criminal act takes the side of the perpetrator, the criminal. And you know how it happens because I just showed you. So basically, when the crime starts happening, you're induced with a fear. Boom, fear hits you. Fight, flight, or freeze. So if the perpetrator has some time, he can relax your conscious mind, relax your unconscious mind, and then suddenly you're just waiting for things, to stop, waiting for the crime to end. And so this motherfucker can drop, he already induced with the fear, so he can drop in a couple of deepeners with maybe some drugs, give you some alcohol maybe, or not, and then drop in some suggestions. I'm your friend. Just be calm, as everything's gonna be all right. Okay, Stockholm syndrome, guys. So you can use this model to figure out the Stockholm syndrome. Oh, I understand why victims take the side of the criminal, because it's a unethical hypnotic process. There you go. And that's why a lot of victims of abuse never turn into perpetrators, or either scared. Half the time they're not scared. They're so confused as to what's going on. Why do they still love these? Why do they still love these people? Well, again, I just showed it to you. Induction, deepener, and suggestion. The conscious mind was shut off. The amygdala was relaxed, and when you're relaxed and somebody's around you, they laugh. That's a quote-unquote friend. You take the suggestion. So I just explained to you guys assassins, super soldiers, and serial killers, and why there's Stockholm syndrome, why victims of abuse don't want to turn into perpetrators. Deep psychology, wicked shit. Fucking wicked shit. Very disturbing shit. Okay. And now for some exhortation. We've gone through a lot of the hypnotic techniques here, and now we're going to use it for good. We're going to use it for what it was designed for, which is a religious ceremony to evoke the human spirit, to unite with the divine, and bring the word down to earth, the word made flesh, bring heaven down to earth as much as we can. So I want to bring you guys, mostly Americans, but those of you who are of goodwill around the world, mostly English speaking probably. Maybe you were part of the British Empire and now you're part of the UK or the Commonwealth or wherever, or you're just in the same spirit as we Americans, who, for better or for worse for you guys, we control the world, right, at this point in history. So let's go talk about a song that turned the tide of history in the United States of America. So during the Civil War, the center of power of the United States was Virginia, a southern state. All of our presidents at that moment, or roughly speaking, most of the presidents, had came from Virginia. That was the power of the United States for a long time, Virginia. When the Civil War started, the South beat the shit out of the North. But you know what turned the tide? Again, it's for better or for worse. I'm not taking sides here. I'm from the South, and I've lived in the North. For better or for worse, this song turned the tide of the war. Just this song, which came out of the North, turned the entire tide of the war. Poetry, music, exhortation, the proper use of these hypnotic / spiritual techniques or the proper use of religion or the evocation of spirituality can turn the tide of history. And we at this point, during this communistic, Nazistic, Stalin-esque, Hitler-like lockdown of the whole goddamn world, if we take the spirit of the battle hymn of the Republic, we can turn the tide here. This is a spiritual war, mostly. Sometimes spiritual wars leak over into the physical world. Let's hope that doesn't happen much. It probably will in some cases. Crazy shit. But if we keep the fight on the spiritual level, less bad things will happen, right? And stay on the spiritual world. So the Battle Hymn of the Republic, I want to bring to you certain verses before I play the song here. We'll do a sing-along. So here are my favorite little excerpts from the Battle Hymn of the Republic. Remember, this changed the course of the United States of America. When the South was beating the shit out of the North, and then suddenly this song came out, soldiers started singing it from the North, and it turned the tide. It turned the tide. Otherwise, there would have been a split country all the way to the Ohio River. But this song turned the tide. He has loosed... Get my classical English and my Shakespearean English almost, not quite. He has loosed the faithful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on. So it's time to loose the terrible swift sword of the spirit of our country. Let the hero born of woman crush the serpent with his heel, since God is marching on. Beautiful, beautiful words. And my most favorite, he has sounded forth the trumpet that shall never sound retreat. Kind of give you some echoes of Winston Churchill. We will never surrender. Never. We'll fight on the beaches. We'll fight on the streets. We will never surrender. And that's what we have to evoke in ourselves now. Using similar things. I want to use the Battle Hymn of the Republic here. So let's enjoy this song as I bring it up here. We can sing along, and I might have some fun here.
Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord. He's trembling out the vintage when the grapes of wrath are stored. He eludes the fateful lightning of his terrible swift sword. His truth is marching on.
Chorus.
Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. I have seen him in the watchfires of 100 sickling camps. They build him an altar in the evening dews and depths. I can read his righteous sentence by the dim flowing lamps. His day is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. that transfigures you and me. As he died to make men holy, let us die to make men free. While God is marching on.
Together.
Hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. Glory, glory, hallelujah. His truth is marching on.
Let us end this little exhortation with some quotes of some of our founding fathers, Patrick Henry, Thomas Jefferson. Let's put some of that music back in here.
Mine eyes have seen the glory
Patrick
of
Henry.
the coming of the Lord.
Besides, sir, we shall not fight our battles alone.
Grapes of wrath are stoned. He eludes the fateful lightning of his terrible.
There is a just God who presides over the destinies of nations, and who will raise up friends to fight our battles for us. The battle, sir, is not to the strong alone, it is to the vigilant, to the active, the brave. Besides, sir, we have no election. If we were base enough to desire it, it is now too late to retire from the contest. There is no retreat, but in submission and slavery. Our chains are forged. Their clanking may be heard on the plains of Boston. The war is inevitable. And let it come. I repeat, sir, let it come. It is in vain, sir, to extenuate the matter. Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace. There is no peace. The war is actually begun. The next gale that sweeps forth from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear or peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take. But as for me, give me liberty or give me death. Thomas Jefferson. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they're endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to effect their safety and happiness.